Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the May milk production report that the USDA released Friday afternoon. This is Dr. Lawrence Jones, and I'm recording this on Saturday, June 22nd, which is right around midsummer here. All right, so we get the milk production report as a first one. Sometimes it comes out the same day as the cold storage report, but it's a little ahead of it this time. And then we're going to get the cold storage report, followed up by the dairy products report to kind of finalize what we think happened in May. So kind of let's look at where we were in April. Now that had all been revised by USDA when they came out. So that revised my typical numbers, and then this is where we actually came out. And then StoneX actually does theirs as year over year basis. So theirs actually didn't change with these revisions. But one of the things that I want to point out is that on a daily basis, the milk production came out down 0.3%. And you might remember in my last podcast, I said I expected to be down 0.5% or 0.5%, plus or minus 0.5%. So it came in a little stronger than what I had originally projected. So let's kind of go through some of these numbers. So here are the cow numbers. They came up a little bit, 9,350 for the year. We're down 68,000, but again, this was a sugar high that we're on in here, and so we've come down off of that. And if you might remember from my dairy products report, I do this rolling cheese disappearance where I estimate how many cows we actually need to meet demand, and it was 9,379,000, and we're at 9,350,000. So we're not off by only 29,000 cows, and so that's within the margin of error of USDA. So we're pretty much right where we need to be. And if we look at the slaughter data, I mean, this has been really confusing, but what we've kind of finally resolved is that there's so few replacement animals that once you put that into context, for the week ending June 8th, we were just a little over 46,500. So here's where this is. Last week was Memorial Day, so that's why that was down. Here's a year ago, and here's 2 years ago. So we're about where we were 2 years ago a little bit. If we look at the daily production, according to the seasonal adjusted level, we were down just a little bit. I mean, not even able to touch that difference in dots there. And if you plot out a line as to where we've been, if you look at last year, we were actually above the trend line. So that was a little bit of an outlier. So comparing this to last year, I think is inaccurate. So in fact, it looks like production has been fairly flat here for at least the last 3, maybe 4 years. Using the federal milk marketing data, we were suggesting that total milk was down 1.75, but we knew there were some major issues with depooling in Arizona, so we didn't look at that too much. If we look at month over month on USDA, we were down about 0.6%, and again, we came in 0.3%. So in my opinion, we came in much better than we would have normally been suggested by USDA. And just as a point of interest, the federal milk marketing orders represented 65.4% of the total milk. And I think about 10% of that is probably depooled, and the rest of it is going to be up in this area. So we've got about 25% of the milk that's not in the federal pools. Milk per cow was just a little bit lower than we had expected. And again, if you plot that out across the last 4 years, this tree just cannot grow to infinity. So at some point, it's going to flatten out. And this makes sense when you actually look at increasing components and not necessarily increasing milk, because fat is worth a lot more than everything else at this point. Before I finish up, I would really like to get some opinions from you guys as to whether you think that this was bearish or bullish. If you look at StoneX's numbers, it would appear to be very bullish. If you look at where we look at month over month, it would actually be bearish. So again, do you think that this is going to be kind of a negative thing or a positive thing for prices? Now, in the short term, the trade might respond however they want to respond. So how the trade responds on Monday is not an indication of how this report should long-term be viewed. And I think the real story will be the cold storage report. So this was the milk production report that we had here. We're going to get the cold storage report on Tuesday, actually, along with the National Dairy Sales reports on Wednesday, egg prices on Friday. Now we won't get the actual dairy products report until the following Wednesday. All right, that's it for me, and I'll get you another report when we get the cold storage report.